Earlier this month, I received an exclusive invite from Nintendo to be one of the first people in the world to play a demo of Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, the newest entries in my favorite franchise of all time. Over the course of about 2 hours, I got to explore the new Paldea region, battle a gym leader, catch Pokémon, meet the starters, and even vote in a real-life version of the Splatoon 3 Pokémon Splatfest poll. In this video, I'm going to go over everything I learned from that session, and give you my in-depth thoughts on Scarlet and Violet's gameplay, new mechanics, graphics, performance, and more. But quickly before we jump in, I just got a few things I need to say first. This is a video version companion to the written preview I've just published over at Insider. That article covers most of the same stuff I go over here, so check that out if you prefer reading to listening. Also, let me quickly go over what I can and can't talk about. I had to sign some pretty serious legal documents before I could play the demo, and it came with some agreements. First of all, I want to stress that what I played was an in-development copy of Pokémon Scarlet, and aspects of the game are still subject to change. That said, we've got less than a month until launch day, so I'm pretty confident that what I saw will stay largely unchanged. Second, although the embargo period is technically over, I'm still not allowed to talk about the game's story, any of the dialogue, or any new Pokémon that Game Freak hasn't showed off in a trailer yet. That might sound like a lot, but trust me, I've got way more to talk about. So let's get started. First off, let's talk about the most important topic, gameplay. What are Scarlet and Violet like to play, and how do they compare to past games in the series? As you probably know, most Pokémon games follow a pretty simple formula. You start in one corner of the map, and slowly follow some predetermined roads and routes to discover new towns and fight gym leaders. Occasionally you can choose to skip ahead to another gym or something, but it's pretty set in stone. So yeah, Scarlet and Violet kinda throw all that out the window. Nearly as soon as you start the game, you're allowed to go wherever you want, whenever you want. Nintendo made it clear to me that if you want to challenge all the gym leaders out of order, or even skip right to the very end of the game, you can do it. All of this is made possible by your ride Pokémon. The legendary Korodon if you're playing Scarlet, or Miradon if you're playing Violet. These Pokémon, which look like the love child of a motorcycle and a Komodo dragon, can dash at Mach speeds, glide through the air, swim through oceans, and even climb up sheer cliffs. After finishing the demo, I described Scarlet and Violet to my colleagues as Pokémon meets Breath of the Wild, and the way you can climb up cliffs was really the biggest reason why. If you want to go somewhere, you can just go. There's no path you have to follow. Now, this system isn't perfect. Scarlet and Violet are Game Freak's first real open-world games, and while racing across the Paldea region is fun, the map can seem incredibly barren at times. There are items and wild Pokémon everywhere, but not much that encourages you to explore deeper. It just seems like a new way to get from checkpoint to checkpoint. That said, it might just seem that way because I only had a limited time to look around. Here's hoping. And although you can choose your own path, Scarlet and Violet do offer 3 major quest lines for you to follow, each with its own story and gameplay style. First, you can take on the Victory Road Challenge. This works the same as any other Pokémon game. You travel the land to battle all 8 gym leaders, then face off against the Pokémon League, the strongest trainers in the region. Before you can battle any gym leader though, you'll need to solve a puzzle or complete a challenge. Various tasks that reminded me a lot of the trials from Pokémon Sun and Moon. Next, you can play through the Starfall Street story. This path pits you against Team Star, a gang of rebellious students who have set up bases across the region. You'll have to infiltrate each Team Star base and earn the right to battle the gang's leaders, like Mela, who has the most ridiculous hair and outfit I have ever seen in a Pokémon game. Even worse than Drayden, and that dude didn't have a mouth. Lastly, there's the Path of Legends. Here you'll team up with a student named Arven to battle massive Titan Pokémon and gather the herbs that they guard. This is the one part of the demo that I skipped because I didn't have time, so I don't know much about it, but I got the impression that it's also like the trials in Sun and Moon, that had you face off against a giant Pokémon. The Victory Road Challenge offers a total of 8 badges to collect, and the other 2 stories offer 5 each, for a total of 18. You get to choose which paths you take, and in what order. Combined with your ability to skip straight to the end of the game, you sorta get to choose what kind of Pokemon game you're playing and how hard it'll be. The game doesn't scale based on your team's strength, meaning that if you skip to the end, you'll still be fighting level 40 to 60 Pokemon. I went straight for Team Star, and I would have lost the first time through if the demo hadn't supplied me with a whole bunch of revives. Speaking of which, what was my team like? The demo started me out with my ride Pokemon Corridon and 5 other level 30 Pokemon: Armoroge, Billabult, Satitan, Farigiraf, and Wiglet. When I looked in my boxes later, I also realized I had a level 50 Breloom that the Pokemon Company rep just never mentioned to me. Would have made Team Star a lot easier. Oh, and by the way, you don't have to go to a PC in a Pokemon Center to change up your party anymore. You can access your entire Pokemon collection at any time from the X button menu, and freely switch it up however you want. Pokemon battling hasn't really changed. The opposing Pokemon still don't really touch, and moves are still just basic particle effects. It's disappointing that Game Freak can't make battles look as dynamic as they did even in Pokemon Battle Revolution, a game that came out 15 years ago. One fun change, though: you can now freely move the camera during Pokemon battles, giving you a 360-degree view of the action. There's also a new type of battle called Auto Battles, which I'll come back to in a bit. This all brings me to what might be the single biggest change to the entire series. As far as I can tell, random Pokemon battles, whether they be with wild Pokemon or with trainers, are completely gone. Remember how in Sword and Shield, some Pokemon were fully modeled creatures just walking around? In Scarlet and Violet, instead of hiding in the grass, all wild Pokemon are fully modeled, and every route is filled to the brim with them. To fight one, you need to physically touch it or throw a Pokeball at it. The same goes for Pokemon trainers. You can't start a Pokemon battle by just making eye contact with someone anymore. You have to actively talk to them first. This gives you a massive amount of control over the speed of the game and how strong your Pokemon get. I am super excited to see what speedruns of this game look like. And now, this isn't to say that it's easy to avoid ever battling. A lot of the Pokemon that walk around are incredibly small and blend into the environment, and some even chase you. It only takes one misstep to accidentally start a battle that you never saw coming. And Game Freak's attempt to let you transition seamlessly from walking into a battle doesn't work perfectly. Check out this clip, where there's an awkward pause and steep graphical downgrade between throwing a Pokeball and the battle beginning. Yeah, not amazing. There are some other similar performance issues elsewhere, which I'll talk about in a bit. But before that, let's talk about some of the new features coming in Scarlet and Violet. First off, I don't care how many people make fun of it, terastallizing might be my favorite evolution gimmick ever. For those that don't know, terastallizing is like Scarlet and Violet's take on Mega Evolutions, or Dynamaxing. A once-per-battle power boost that gives your Pokemon a special new form. Terastallizing turns your Pokemon into a living gem, and usually gives them a new type. You can only terastallize once per battle, and you'll need to recharge at a Pokemon Center or a Terrajewel before you can activate it again. But compared to those previous gimmicks, terastallizing and Terra types actually make battles a lot more skillful. Since transforming gives nearly every Pokemon a new type, it gives both you and your opponent new avenues for counterplay and mind games. For example, the Pokemon Sudowoodo, famously a rock type that looks like a grass type, can actually become a real grass type once it transforms, meaning you'll need an entirely new strategy to beat it. I can imagine someone saving their terastallization until the very end of a battle, and transforming their Pokemon into a type that the opponent has no plan for. Really excited to see how that impacts the competitive scene. Terastallizing also looks beautiful, and it's one of the few places where Scarlet and Violet actually resemble impressive next-generation games.
And now for something completely different.
Sandwich making. Like in Sword and Shield, you can set up camp to interact with your Pokemon and make meals. But instead of making curry, you get to make sandwiches. The sandwich making minigame is one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen in a Pokemon game. You don't just pick the sandwich ingredients, you now play like a Cooking Mama style minigame, where you place all the ham slices and pickles and all that. And I don't have footage of it, but you don't really get to see your character and Pokemon eat the sandwich. They just sort of awkwardly appear over a JPEG of the sandwich, and then react based on how good it is. And let me tell you, I made the worst sandwich of all time during my demo. I also want to quickly touch on one of my favorite parts of any Pokemon game, the character customization. Since Pokemon X and Y, you've been able to buy clothes and change up your character's style. I'm excited to say the character customization is easier and deeper in Scarlet and Violet than ever before. Like previous games, you can still buy new clothes for your characters at shops, but now you can change your character's clothes, eye color, hairstyle, and more at any time, even while traveling. And in a monumental change, there aren't any clothes or hairstyles that are exclusive to one gender anymore. Although you can start the game with a preset appearance that makes you look like a boy or a girl, the underlying character models are exactly the same, so you can make your character look however you want. It reminds me of how character customization works in Animal Crossing New Horizons, where there's a focus on style instead of gender. It's a fantastic change to the series. But for all the great new features, I hate to say that there are some bad ones too. Most notably, auto battles. So, new to the series is the Let's Go feature, which lets you send out your Pokemon to collect items and battle wild Pokemon without your control. When your Pokemon independently battles another, it's called an auto battle. Sending your Pokemon out to auto battle while traveling is a decent way to earn items and XP without doing much work. Where the feature falls apart, though, are the moments when you're forced to do it. When you infiltrate a Team Star base, you're told that you have 10 minutes to defeat 30 Pokemon, and only then can you face the gang leader. This seems exciting at first, until you realize that you have to defeat those 30 Pokemon entirely through auto battles. What follows is 3 minutes of standing around, as your Pokemon do all the fighting for you without any real interaction. And since the auto battles are barely animated, your Pokemon essentially just growl at the others to beat them and that's it, watching the fights play out isn't interesting. As you move through the game and Pokemon evolve to get bigger and stronger, auto battles might become more fun. But during the demo, I just found them boring and hard to follow. Finally, let's talk about graphics and performance. In the lead up to Pokemon Sword and Shield in 2019, Nintendo and Game Freak received a lot of criticism for the game's simplistic graphics, animations, and performance. And although 3 years have passed, I'm afraid to report that not much has changed. My Pokemon Scarlet demo didn't play well. The game runs at a native 60 frames per second, but regularly dips down to 30 or even lower. Textures on flowers and buildings don't appear until you're a few steps away. And sprinting through Paldea on your ride Pokemon's back can feel slow and sluggish as the game races to load every new area. In one section of the demo, I was tasked with finding 10 missing Pokemon. I couldn't help but cringe as my character ran at 60 FPS, but the Pokemon and NPCs around me slid along at what looked to only be about 10. There were also some pretty noticeable load times when you're switching Pokemon in battle or trying to view their summaries. To top things off, I played the demo alongside 3 other people, and we ended our session by teaming up for a multiplayer Terra Raid battle. The battle ran smoothly until the very end, when 3 of our 4 games crashed to a blank white screen. I genuinely hope that these issues are exclusive to the demo and won't appear in the final release. When it comes to the human characters, there's still no voice acting, which is fine. But most conversations are still just 2 characters staring blankly ahead, flapping their lips and occasionally moving their hands. The new art style doesn't help much. Scarlet and Violet's graphics aren't as anime-esque as previous entries, and everything has a plastic sheen on it, giving some characters an unsettling half-Pixar, half-Uncanny Valley appearance. So, what are my final thoughts? Among hardcore Pokemon fans, Scarlet and Violet are clearly going to be controversial. They present a radical change to the typical Pokemon formula, which fans aren't always open to. And the performance issues, if they last, won't make anyone happy either. But in my eyes, these might be the most accessible Pokemon games ever. No matter what kind of player you are, you'll find something in Scarlet and Violet that piques your interest. Taking on all the gyms, exploring the map to find every Pokemon, racing to see how fast you can finish the game, it all feels equally important. There's no right or wrong way to play. I hope that Game Freak takes the time to iron out the frame rate drops and glitches. Do that, and Scarlet and Violet have the chance to be top-tier Pokemon games. Thank you so much to Nintendo and Game Freak for letting me try these games out. And thanks to all of you for watching. Are you looking forward to Pokémon Scarlet and Violet? What's got you most interested? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you next time.